John Niblett passes on while waiting for entitlements. Morobe province ready for counting. And Medang police in lucky arrest.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thank you for joining me for Wednesday's news. Former Engau Hospital cancer specialist Dr. John Niblett died early yesterday in the hospital he worked in for over 20 years. For 3 decades, he was the only oncologist at the National Cancer Treatment Centre. Dr. Niblett had been under a lot of stress and was waiting for the government to pay 6 months of outstanding salaries and leave entitlements.
Former Engau Hospital oncologist is understood to have died of various complications just after 6 p.m. last night. As many of his close friends and colleagues began grieving for his loss, there has been a lot of anger expressed over the treatment of the cancer specialist in the 12 months leading up to his death. In June 2016, Dr. Niblett's employment with the Department of Health ended and he was told his contract would not be renewed. In March 2017, Dr. Niblett, who'd been out of a job for more than 6 months, was evicted from his rented accommodation in Lae. After seeking a court injunction on the grounds of his unpaid entitlements, the court issued orders for the National Department of Health to continue paying his rentals until he received his entitlements. In the final weeks, Dr. Niblett was also facing deportation as he waited. Close friends said his visa had expired and he was stressed by the personal crisis. Scott Waide, National EMTV News, Lae.
Now to elections and the latest on counting in Hela. After count 19 for Taripori, sitting MP and PNC candidate James Morobe is leading on 9,052 votes, followed by Johnny Philip Pokaya on 3,024, and running third is Robert Haralu Mai on 1,603. Counting was expected to end at 5:30 p.m. according to Hela election manager John Tipper. He also said counting has progressed well without any problems or issues. Electoral Commissioner Patilius Gamato is in East New Britain province for an election-related visit. Mr. Gamato arrived at midday today and held a closed-door meeting with the East New Britain Provincial Administrator Wilson Matava, Provincial Police Commander Joseph Tabali and Election Manager Joab Voivoi. The agenda of the meeting is not known. However, Mr. Gamato will be talking to journalists in a media conference tomorrow. His visit to East New Britain also comes after candidates and their supporters petitioned the Provincial Electoral Office yesterday to start counting immediately. Polling is now winding down in the Morobe province and preparations for counting are underway. Counting will start on Monday the 10th. Ballot papers for the regional seat will be counted at the Sir Ignatius Kilagis Stadium, whilst counting for the open seats will be in each electorate.
Counting for Lae Open was supposed to start today but has been moved to next Monday. The Sir Ignatius Kilage Indoor Stadium is being prepared for the regional and Lae Open counting. Counting for the open seats will be done in each electorate. Election Manager Simon Soheke confirmed that counting for the Morobe province will start on Monday, the 10th of July.
Counting in all the districts will commence on Monday, the 10th. Depending on how fast our presiding officers are doing their reports.
Polling for the Morobe province has been quiet in the rural districts. Lae's one-day poll, however, had disruptions at a number of polling stations. Ballot papers were burnt at Unitech, polling at the Nawai block was cancelled and ballot papers from Butibam disputed. The main issue faced during polling was the shortage of ballot papers and missing names on the roll. Despite these problems, the Morobe Electoral Commission is on schedule. Counting for the Kabum open seat will start earlier on Saturday. Ballot boxes for the regional seats from the other districts are yet to be brought to Lae. Lucy Kopana, National EMTV News, Lae.
Prime Minister Peter O'Neill, a CMG MP, has called on opposition members to respect the Electoral Commission and let it do its job. PM O'Neill made the comment as voting in the national election draws to a conclusion and counting is underway. He has called the alleged encroaching a desperate move by named members of the opposition. PM O'Neill says enough is enough from desperate fallen leaders who are now dropping to new lows. National EMTV News continues after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. Medang police have arrested 9 men who were in possession of 41 live bullets, 3 homemade guns and other items last night at Asas in the Usino Bundi district. One of the homemade guns was modified into a revolver and was loaded with ammunition. They were also in possession of knives, 524 kina cash and 2 containers of homebrew. The 9 men were traveling in a vehicle and were trying to bump into an unmarked vehicle carrying police and CS personnel. The security personnel gave chase and caught the suspects. They were taken to Medang last night and were locked up at the Jomba police station. Polling in Medang is progressing according to schedule and is expected to be completed by the end of this week. Election Manager Justin Pantumari told EMTV Medang Urban in Medang District completed polling yesterday. The other districts are expected to complete polling at the end of the week.
Medang Urban was the first to complete polling yesterday. The one-day polling was scheduled for Monday. However, some areas were not able to complete polling and requested an extension. There were 24 teams that conducted polling in Medang Urban. 6 requested for extension.
Six teams that requested the returning officer, Mr. Joe Sakiba, to extend or allow them to have polling today, Tuesday. July, today. So the RO make the decision to have a half-a-day polling.
The assistant election manager explained they allowed for half a day of polling on Tuesday.
In Medang, the business houses in Medang haven't released their employees to take part for this one-day polling. Therefore, in the afternoon, around 5 o'clock, when they finish work, these are the ones that they came in and they increased the number of polling. They increased the queue. That's the reason why they asked the presiding officer if they can cast the vote because their names were on the roll.
Meanwhile, counting venues for 4 districts will be held in the town area. Boge and Sumkar districts will conduct counting at their own districts. Designated venues will be given out to the returning officers and the assistant returning officers and also the public. Training for counting officials will be conducted next week Tuesday and counting for Medang province will commence next Wednesday. Mata Luis, National EMTV News, Medang.
The 14 ballot boxes locked at the Tinputs police station in North Bougainville has been released and is ready for counting. Bougainville's acting election manager Desmond Timiaso has also confirmed safely receiving these ballot boxes, which remain untampered. Meanwhile, in Bana, South Bougainville, 24 ballot boxes were also locked at the district office after service providers protested against the 2012 national elections' unpaid dues.
Mr. Timiaso has confirmed the 14 ballot boxes will be counted. This is because they were not tampered and locked safely in the Tinputs police station. The incident occurred after service providers of Swiri in North Bougainville protested over unpaid dues for the 2012 national elections and the 2015 ABG elections totaling to 73,000 kina. Service providers have been assured and agreed for the smooth polls and counting to continue and will wait on the PNG Electoral Commission's decision. Meanwhile, counting in the autonomous region of Bougainville is scheduled on Monday next week. This is because polling in Tinputs will be completed this coming Saturday, July 8. The acting election manager also said planning for the counting also started. In Boca, Fabian Haklitz, National EMTV News.
Counting for the 4 seats in NCD is scheduled to begin tomorrow after 3 days of deferral. This comes after over 500 counting officials underwent training on the counting progress.
Training for the counting officials in NCD began after lunch today. Training was conducted at the different counting venues. For Mosby South, it was conducted at Kila Secondary, Mosby Northeast at the Sir John Guy's Indoor Complex, and Mosby Northwest and regional seats at the Rita Flynn Netball Courts. Counting for the 4 seats in NCD was supposed to have started on Tuesday this week, but because counting officials did not undergo training, it was deferred to tomorrow. NCD election manager Alwyn Jimmy is happy with the preparations for counting and says counting will kick off tomorrow morning.
They completed, and everybody now are going to come in tomorrow morning, and then they will give them the number. I mean, they will give them what to do, and then they will start off with the counting. We will have 3 to 4 shifts.
As Port Moresby residents count down the hours to the start of counting tomorrow, there is an increase in number of scrutineers and supporters camping outside the counting venues. Thakla National EMTV News.
Sitting Governor for National Capital District, Paul Pakop, is concerned about the delayed counting for the NCD. He said the reasons given for the delay is an excuse for lack of preparation.
It's unbecoming of us to have a situation where polling has been completed about 3 or 4 days ago and we had not even started counting. So as far as I can see, it's not just mere incompetence, it's almost bordering now on some, conspiracy or some plot. So it's like, for me, as I said, like deja vu or a movie, rerun in 2012. And I want to call on the election manager and his ROs and, the polling officials, counting officials, and the Chief Electoral Commissioner. They have to get their act together.
More than 2,000 voters from the North Wagi electorate in Jiwaka province declined to cast their votes yesterday. Among them were 2 candidates who refused to vote while calling for the polling venue to be moved back to the traditional voting area. Provincial Election Manager Rosie Pandihau told EMTV News that attempts to encourage people to exercise their right to vote were unsuccessful both yesterday and today.
Lucas Kanjip, a candidate for North Wagi seat from the Tolu 1 area, said he was not able to cast his vote yesterday at the Carawil Defence Force barracks. Kanjip raised concerns that the centralization of the polling venue of 9 wards have caused problems, with enemy tribes coming together to vote at the central location in Carawil. Those 3 wards which rejected to cast their votes yesterday are Kupalku 1 and 2 and Numkora wards.
Big blunder, and I appeal to Electoral Commission to look into the matter, and if it can declare it as a failed election or to do away with these boxes, I'm very much obliged and I appreciate that.
A vehicle was set alight at Carawil and several houses burnt down by voters who were not happy with the decision of the Electoral Commission to centralize the polling area. The same candidates also protested in May this year for the Electoral Commission to revoke their decision. Reasons raised were that 2 of the 9 council wards are Waring tribes and 6 people were recently killed in separate clashes. Transportation and security of the voters were some of the main reasons behind the candidates' petition.
We aggrieved or concerned candidates in North Wagi. We want to alert the authorities in Papua New Guinea, like the Electoral Commissioner. We want them to know, including the Police Commissioner and the Chief Secretary, the relevant authorities. We want them to know that the election in North Wagi, the Electoral Commission's motto of promoting the free, fair and safe election wasn't followed.
The candidates have feared that this election will not be free, fair and safe and are already expecting the worst. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News, Jiwaka.
And now looking at our finance news, the Kina closed unchanged at $0.3145 US in the interbank markets. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.307 US dollars, 0.4004 Australian dollars, 0.2673 euro, and 34.37 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold, coffee, cocoa closed higher, while copra closed the day lower. Palm oil closed unchanged, while crude oil and copper closed the day lower. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 129.64 points higher, the ASX closed at 20.52 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed at 18.65 points lower. Today's other stories when we come back, including a major road construction in NCD and stories making headlines overseas. Stay with us. Welcome back. A businessman in Port Moresby appeared today at the Waigani National Court to testify over the alleged misuse of 600,000 kina from the state. Mose Kopioko was alleged to have misused this money under the Public Investment Program from the Department of National Planning and Monitoring in 2015.
Defendant Mose Kopioko appeared before Deputy Chief Justice Segib Salika at the Waigani Supreme Court this morning to clear allegations over the misuse of more than 600,000 kina from the state. The state alleged that in 2015 the defendant obtained more than 600,000 kina under the Public Investment Program paid by the Department of Planning. The court aired in 2015 three co-accused who also appeared from custody today had conned the defendant, who then paid part of the 600,000 kina to them. Deputy Chief Justice Segib Salika, who is the presiding judge, told the defendant that he was paying the money to fraudsters and he had fallen into the trap. The defendant told the court that he reported the matter to police and Simon Okue, a co-accused in the proceeding, was arrested and charged. The matter continues. Eric Arupma, National EMTV News.
Another major road construction in Port Moresby, the Kora Way, is expected to be completed in September this year. It is being built by the China Harbour Engineering Company at a cost of over 80 million kina funded under the BSP loan. NCD Governor Poes Pakop said the aim of the major road projects around the nation's capital city is to ease traffic congestion and to promote a spread of businesses on the peripheries of the city.
Pakop visited the construction site this afternoon to see that work progress has reached 60% and is on schedule for the completion date October 21, 2017. The 4.5-kilometer four-lane road known as the Kora Way links Waigani Drive to the Hanwabada bypass. Initially, the road was supposed to connect Waigani Drive to the Badihagwa High School, but plans changed.
Okay, the initial plan for this road was supposed to go through Badihagwa, so it comes to the runabout at Badihagwa, but because it might interfere with the school and cause a lot of other challenges relocating the school, it's a bit hard for us with land as a limited commodity. So that's why we've diverted it here. But the cost, did not really go up or blow up.
250 energy-saving lights will be installed to power up the road. Mr. Pakop said the project has also provided a way for other services such as water, sewage, electricity and telecommunication services to be added to the area.
The idea for us, for the city, is to expand the city. For me as governor, is to expand the city. Population is growing, business is growing. We have to think about the future, create more opportunities, create the environment by which business can grow. People can access education and work and on time and on time and safely. So we continue to do that on the part of NCDC and my.
Governor Pakop said the project has generated about 400,000 cubic meters of fill materials. Almost all of them are used for the Ella Beach redevelopment. He said there are plans for another road to link Kora Way to Sir William Skate Highway to link at the Baruni bypass. If that materializes, the second phase of the Ella Beach redevelopment will be completed. Deli Waigeno, National, EMTV News.
Turning overseas, Russia and China have urged North Korea to stop its nuclear and missiles program following claims of Pyongyang's first intercontinental missiles test.
The moment that North Korea says it became a major power. The launch of a missile that it claims can reach across continents and deliver a nuclear weapon as far away as the United States. The news was announced on state television with barely constrained joy. We have become a nuclear power with intercontinental ballistic missiles, the presenter said, showing the handwritten order given by the country's leader, Kim Jong-un. He personally supervised the launch of a missile that he believes will secure him power, protect his people, and dismay his opponents.
If North Korea ignores our military's warning and continues provocations, we clearly warn that Kim Jong-un's regime will face destruction.
The pressure that is being applied internationally is having very little effect on changing the regime's tactics towards their development. It is also significant as well because it has been reported that this is an ICBM, an intercontinental ballistic missile, which means now North Korea are making tangible steps towards being able to target the US.
Experts said it was still not clear if North Korea had the technology needed to protect a warhead on re-entry and guide it to its target. But if North Korean missiles can now reach the US, then that's a significant step forward, and one that President Trump said earlier this year just wouldn't happen. Today, in a tweet, he again urged China to put pressure on North Korea. But so far, China has shown no willingness to do that. President Xi of China was in Russia today. Both he and President Putin called for a freeze on North Korea's nuclear weapons program and the suspension of military exercises by the US and South Korea. The fear among diplomats is that the dispute could destabilize an already tense region packed full of conventional weapons. At this weekend's G20 summit in Germany, all sides will be looking for answers.
In Afghan, a man has told the BBC that British Special Forces unlawfully killed members of his family. It's believed the British military is investigating the incident, alleged to have happened in 2011.
This is the war that many will remember from Afghanistan. British troops in Helmand fighting an insurgency. But what we didn't see were the secret raids that often took place at night, involving British Special Forces such as the SAS. There are now allegations that in some of these raids, innocent civilians were killed. The BBC has interviewed one man who's asked not to be identified, who claims unarmed members of his family were victims of one of those raids.
We were held blindfolded in a room overnight. Early in the morning, the soldiers came back and said I should not go out until they had left. When their helicopters had gone, we came out and found they had shot my father, 2 brothers and a cousin.
The BBC's been told the raid did involve special forces and is now being investigated. Others who served in Afghanistan have questions about the conduct of the SAS too. Chris Green was a reservist in Helmand when he had to deal with the aftermath of another special forces raid in which locals allege civilians were killed in cold blood. One of a number of allegations first reported in the Sunday Times.
It was my view that the British forces and the ground-holding troops that I worked with worked under a very, very strict rules of engagement. And it seemed to me that Special Forces did not.
A former head of the army is urging caution.
No witch hunts, but no cover-ups. If there is evidence of wrongdoing, it should be investigated, but we should be very, very careful about throwing mud at our very special forces.
Allegations of widespread abuse by British troops in Iraq have already been mostly discredited. That investigation is now closed. But there are still questions about their conduct in Afghanistan, and that might involve lifting the lid on the actions of Britain's elite special forces.
There's been a call for routine DNA testing of all patients with serious illness like cancer so that treatments can be better targeted. A UK chief medical officer says mapping a patient's genetic makeup will one day become as standard as biopsies and blood tests.
Medicine will allow doctors to diagnose and treat diseases such as cancer much more precisely. It'll make drugs more effective for everyone. For more than a decade, this technology has been largely experimental. But today, England's top doctor said it was ready for wide deployment.
I'm saying, please, can we now move from talking and experimenting around genomes and put it into practice for patients?
The genome is a collection of 20,000 genes, which contain the 3.2 billion letters of the DNA code. 99.8% of these letters are the same in all of us. What makes us different, including the diseases we're prone to, lie in the remaining 0.2%. The idea is to work out what those differences are for each of us and tailor medical treatments to suit the individual rather than take a blanket approach to treating illnesses. Doctors say they want sequences to become as normal as blood tests or biopsies for cancer patients. Genetic sequencing helped James Vincent find a name for the extremely rare disease that he'd had all his life, causing him painful problems with how his body grows.
It's given me, in a sense, a happier life because I know what I'm working with.
Rare diseases like James's are one target for genomic medicine. But an even bigger target will be cancer.
Instead of looking at cancer as a disease of certain organs, we need to look at cancer as a disease of certain mistakes in the genome and then target those treatments to those mistakes.
Genomes are set to become a cornerstone of healthcare in the 21st century.
Chukai Sports is next. Details after the break.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome to Chukai Sports. The SP-PNG Hunters will take on defending premiers the Burleigh Bears this weekend. The match is scheduled for Sunday, 11th of July at the National Football Stadium.
Moses Meninga and Adex Wera have been named on the extended bench. Wera missed last weekend's match after being suspended for one game by the Queensland Rugby League. Wellington Albert and David Locko have made it back into the starting lineup after coming off the bench in last weekend's match. Coach Michael Marum has kept Brandy Peter in the lock forward position with Nixon Put to come off the bench. The Bears are currently in 11th place while the Hunters still maintain the top spot. The Hunters thrashed the Bears 40-6 earlier this year in round 8 of the Interest Super Cup in Brisbane. The Bears arrive in Port Moresby on Saturday before the 3 p.m. match on Sunday. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
Dominating day 2 of the national basketball competition today were Port Moresby and NCD in the women's division. With plenty of talent showcased, both had the advantage of young national players on board. Godwin Eki reports.
Playing the underdogs in the women's division, neighbours Daru and Kerema took charge on the courts in a very strong match between NCD and POM. The Daru Barramundis took on NCD and Kerema up against POM in a thrilling encounter like David and Goliath. As the Daru Barramundis banked on their Port Moresby-based players, it was certainly game on as the two teams battled on the court. Barramundis using height to their advantage, it was a race for the ball as the teams tried to score points on the board. While the first 2 quarters seemed a little slow, well, it was a tough match in the third quarter. The underdogs, the Barramundis, in the last quarter finally found their weakness while managing to aim for 3-pointers, but it was too late to match the score as NCD took the better of them 77 points to 17 at full time. As neighbours Kerema took on POM, it was a race against time in the first 3 quarters, but POM proved to be the dominant side, whitewashing Kerema with 66 points to 35. In the earlier matches, Alatau took on PMBL, NCDBL up against Kerema in the men's Pool A, and in Pool B, Daru played Ley. In later matches in the men's division, Tubuseria competed against PMBL, Alatau battled with Kerema, and Daru against Kerema. Day 3 of the national basketball competition continues tomorrow with the first match between, in the men's division, against Tubuseria and PMBL, and Port Moresby Basketball League 2 against NCD Basketball League. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
Chukai Sports continues after the break. Stay with us.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. Prior to the National Basketball Championships, referees had taken a refresher course facilitated by FIBA Oceania Development Officer Anna Lafleur. The aim of the course was to upskill all referees to run national and international events in the country.
Working like real professionals, it was only a day before the National Basketball Championships kick-started yesterday when referees took every last bit of skills and techniques they needed to refresh and upskill their knowledge on the game just in time for the National Championships. Anna Lafleur, Development Officer for FIBA Oceania, who was invited by the PNG Basketball Federation, says it was great to hear great feedback from the referees themselves. These referees were certainly interested to learn, saying it was all worth it.
I'm working with the referees specifically today, working with the Basketball Federation to prepare not only the National Championship but also in preparation for the Melanesian Cup later on in September. So working with the referees and the score bench and just trying to get them prepared and to give them that understanding that there are expectations and we want them to have some responsibility for the way they perform as well. So this is a great test for that.
Anna says providing more workshops in the future is something she will be working closely with Basketball PNG. Basketball PNG CEO Joel Carlos says it's important that a refresher course was provided and making sure that the level of referees were upskilled.
It's great to have Annie Lafleur from FIBA Oceania here, to be able to come and do some work with our referees and officials. So, yeah, look, we're trying to tick all the boxes as a federation to make sure we grow the sport across all levels of the sport.
Successfully reffing the first game of the National Championships, the referees did a great job yesterday and are hoping to continue and put their best feet forward to finish the competition on a high on Saturday. A basketball player herself, Anna comes with a wealth of experience and is hoping to, across the Pacific, teach, mentor and give the best education possible in the region when it comes to basketball development.
Have a lot of talent. We've got over 7 million people here in PNG, and trying to work on developing our coaches and our referees. We've got players that are going to the next level, as we saw with the Wright brothers that are here. They're going on to college in the States and things like that, playing in Australia. So we're lifted up our players. Now it's about working with our coaches and referees and getting them to that next level as well.
Godwin Eki, National, EMTV Sports.
Following Tonga's withdrawal from hosting the 2019 Pacific Games, there is still uncertainty to whether Games will be hosted and whether or not it will push through. Tonga's failure to go back on its initial decision to withdraw has seen to the host agreement between the Games Council and Tongan government formally terminated on Monday by the PGC. Legal proceedings came into effect immediately against the Tongan government, being the party that withdrew hosting duties without any consultation. For now, the council has made known that it would like to have an experienced host take on the 2019 duties. To cycling, French champion Arnaud Démare claimed his maiden Tour de France stage win when he powered to victory in a crash mud finale on the fourth day. Yellow jersey holder Geraint Thomas hit the deck in the crash near the end, but as the incident occurred within the final 3 kilometers, he will be credited with the same time as the winner.
Sprinter Mark Cavendish came down in a separate crash within 100 meters of the finish line after being elbowed off balance by world champion Peter Sagan, who took second place but was kicked out of the Tour altogether following a decision by the race jury. The Brighton of the Dimension Data team eventually got back on his bike and crossed the line after being attended to by race medics. Cavendish, wearing a sling, was later taken to hospital for checks on his wrist and collarbone. Norway's Alexander Kristoff came home third as FDJ rider Démare, who has been in impressive form lately, had time to raise his arms in celebration before crossing the line. Démare took the green jersey for the points classification in the process. Tonight's fifth stage should see the top guns in action as the 160.5 kilometer ride from Vittel will end up La Planche de Belleville, a lung-busting 5.9 kilometer climb at an average gradient of 8.5%. Jeremy Moggy, National TV Sports.
And that ends Trukai Sports. The weather details after the break.
Trukai Sports. True Kai Sports.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
Looking at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region, mostly fine in Port Moresby and Popondetta, mostly fine and windy in Daru and Alotau, and fine apart from a shower or two tonight in Kerema. In the Momase region, some showers in Lae, possible heavy thundery showers developing in Madang and Wewak, and a few showers in Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, possible heavy thundery showers in Lorengau, some rain developing in Kavieng, Kimbe, Rabaul and Kokopo, and some thundery showers developing in Buka. And in the Highlands region, apart from a shower or two tonight, there will be fine weather and expected morning fog in all centres. Forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours. Strong wind warning current for all coastal waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island to Kerema, to Yule Island to Hood Point, to all Milne Bay and its islands, including Samare Island to Cape Vogel, to Finschhafen through Vitia Strait, Dampier Strait including Searsea Islands, Long Island to West New Britain, to Manus, Western Group of Islands and Bougainville. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border to waters of Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island to Kerema, to Yule Island to Hood Point, to Samare Island, seas of 2 to 3 meters. Waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands with waters of Samare Island to Cape Vogel, to Finschhafen, and with waters of Manus and its western group of islands, seas of 2 to 2.5 meters. Waters of Finschhafen through Vitia Strait, Dampier Strait including Searsea Islands to Long Island, and with waters of West New Britain, seas of 2.5 to 3 meters. Waters of Madang to Bogia, to Wewak, to Aitape, to Vanimo and northern PNG Indonesian border, seas of 0.5 to 1.5 meters. Waters of Manus and its western group of islands, seas of 2 to 2.5 meters. And waters of New Ireland to East New Britain and Bougainville, seas of 1 to 2 meters. Ocean forecast for PNG areas in the Coral Sea. Seas rather rough to patches rough with southeast winds at 25 to 34 knots. In the Solomon Sea, seas moderate to rather rough with southeast winds at 20 to 25 knots. In the Bismarck Sea, seas moderate to rough with southeast winds at 25 to 34 knots. And in the Pacific Ocean, seas slight to moderate with northeast to southeast winds at 10 to 20 knots.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
And that's the way it is this Wednesday, 5th of July 2017. Coming up next, Your Vote 2017. From the entire news team, I'm Helen Seah. Good night.